Oh, shalom. Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to another episode. Today I want to talk about the writing on the wall. Yes, writing on the wall. It was, the story is in Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar's son, Belshazzar, is king, and he's having a feast, a feast of some sort, and something scares him when he sees a hand come out of nowhere and start writing on the wall. I'm going to read this story to you right out of the Bible, right out of Daniel. And it starts in chapter 5. I'm going to read this story. You get your Bible out, check up on me, follow along, or just put it down as a note and study it later. It's chapter 5. It's the Feast of Belshazzar. Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his princes and drank wine before the 1,000. So there's 1,000 people. There's a lot of people there. Belshazzar, whilst he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink of them. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of Elah, and which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, wives, and concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the mighty ones of gold and silver and brass and iron and gold and of the stone. So these false pagan gods who they were giving thanks to. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the kings saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's attitude basically changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosened, and his knees smote one against the other. He shook in fear. He was really terrified of what he saw. The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. And the king spoke and said to the wise men of Babylon, whosoever shall read this writing and show me the interpretation thereof shall be clothed with scarlet and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known to the king the interpretation thereof. Then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his attitude was changed in him, and his princes were astonished. Now the queen, by reason of the words of the king and his princes, came into the banquet house, and the queen spoke and said, O king, live forever. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee, nor thy attitude be changed. There is a man in thy kingdom whom is the spirit of the mighty ones, and in the days of the Father light and understanding, the wisdom like the wisdom of the mighty ones was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, thy father the king, I say, thy father made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. For as much as the excellent spirit of the knowledge and understanding, interpreting of the dreams, and showing of hard sentences, and dissolving of doubts, were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. So thankfully she remembered Daniel from from Nebuchadnezzar's dreams, and he was ahead of the magicians, astrologers, and everything. He was the number one, the chief, and they called upon Daniel. Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spoke and said unto Daniel, Art thou that Daniel which art of the children of the captivity of Judah, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of thee that the spirit of the mighty ones is in thee, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in thee. And now the wise men and astrologers have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But they could not show the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of thee that thou canst make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now if thou canst read the writing and make known to me the interpretation thereof, thou shalt be clothed with scarlet and have chain of gold about thy neck, and shalt be a third ruler of the kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, Let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O thou king, the most high, Elah gave Nebuchadnezzar thy fathers a kingdom and majesty and glory and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he slew, and whom he kept alive, and whom he would set up, and who he would put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened in pride, he was disposed from this kingly throne, and he took his glory from him. And he has driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High Elah ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointeth over it whomever he will. And thou, his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thine heart, though thou knewest all these things, but hast lifted up thyself against the master of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy princes and wives and concubines have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the mighty ones of silver and gold and brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear not, nor know. And the Elah of those lands that breathe is whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified. So Daniel's saying that Yahweh's upset because they didn't glorify him. They glorified the pagan gods, the golds, the ones that they don't know anything. They're dumb idols. They don't have thoughts. They're inanimate objects. They're not alive. Then was the part of thy hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, Allah has numbered thy kingdom and finished it. So the kingdom has been numbered and it is finished. His fate is sealed and numbered. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and found wanting. Perez, the kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Just like when Nebuchadnezzar had the dream, it's talking about the 4 world ruling kingdoms. What it says, it's expanded now. It's starting to twist where Babylon is no more, and the Medes and the Persians are going to invade. They're going to be the second stage of the world power. And then commanded Belshazzar, and he clothed Daniel with scarlet and put chain of gold around his neck, and made proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler of the kingdom. But that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. So basically, in a blink of an eye, after this, the Medes come in and conquered and overthrew the Babylonian domination. Darius come in with his forces, killed the king of Babylon, and took over. And it just happened that swiftly. And that was the writing on the wall. And it's kind of ironic, that Yahweh gave Babylon time to hear this message from Daniel, to interpret it before the Medes and the Persians come in and took them out. So then of course, Darius the Median, and he had Cyrus the Great, the other ruler. He come in, and he's the one that freed the Jews from the captivity and gave them a choice if they wanted to stay where they were at, or they wanted to go back, rebuild the temple and live there under a vassal state, of course, and the Jews were greatly pleased, and a small minority of Jews went back and started building the temple. And to this day, they consider Cyrus a hero and a liberator. But that was the fate of Belshazzar and Babylon. But, of course, in our studies, Babylon isn't really dead. The spirit of Babylon lives on even today. And it's talked about even in the Revelations for the end times. The spirit of Babylon. I just thought this was an important subject to read and study with you guys. Like I said, when you have time to study the scriptures here, the topic of it, it's an inspiring story, and it's just too bad that the Babylonians messed up like they did. And after all, we're all human, I guess. And anyways, with that said and done, thank you again for tuning in. And please like my videos, watch my other videos if you have time, or when you have time to. Subscribe, hit the notification bells for future episodes. Comment below. Share the videos with other friends, family, whoever. And, with that said and done, thank you. I appreciate it, humbly appreciate it. And peace out and shalom.